All right, we're live.
We're live.
Welcome, everybody. Um,
It's a Sunday.
it is a Sunday. This is an unusual, this is a whole new endeavor for us. My name is Mike Hess. I have done this a few times now. I'm a respiratory therapist and COPD advocate and public health advocate.
I'm Kelly Becker. I am a patient who has struggled with obesity her whole life. I am also a family nurse practitioner with a background in cardiopulmonary critical care nursing. And now I work full time helping people with obesity. And I come to you today very humble. And
You and me both.
I've had the pleasure and privilege. I love my clinic. This site and this channel are not representative of our workplaces, but I'll tell you that I've had the privilege of working with patients trying to keep their chronic disease of obesity in remission. And I have struggled more than most of my patients. So today, as we start our channel, The Best Nest, as helping people with chronic disease such as obesity or chronic lung disease, addiction, anything. I want to tell you, I'm up 30 pounds from my lowest post-surgical weight. I had this sleeve gastrectomy in October of 2013. It saved my life. My husband here that I married at 35 that same year in 2013, and the three children that came with him, my stepchildren, were my new lease on life. So we married in May of 2013. I had my surgery with Dr. Versman in Kalamazoo, Michigan in October of 2013. And I went from 5'2", 311 plus pounds to about 165 when you made me cosplay for the 50th anniversary of the Star Trek. And I'm up 30 pounds from that. I'm up 30 pounds from my lowest post-surgical weight. And at that time, I wasn't even at my goal. So with COVID-19 and the quarantine and being home and being treated for anxiety and depression with medicine that makes it harder to lose weight, and with less activity, that's all my own doing, I'm up 30 pounds from my lowest weight. So today, I weighed in at 195 pounds, 5'2". And I want to be anywhere between 140 and 150 pounds. So we are people who understand and are on this journey ourselves. And I took measurements as well, and we'll do Mike's measurements later. So we are going to embark on a journey of 5 weeks. So from today, it's about 5 weeks to the 4th of July.
Okay.
And to me, and I sometimes need a catchy new slogan or phrase, I'm telling myself I have 5 weeks to freedom. 5 weeks to really pull everything together that I know to do and that other patients are doing well. And I want to demonstrate that any of us can fall but pick ourselves back up.
Yep.
And so I present today at 5'2", 195 pounds, and I want to be essentially at goal between 140 and 150 pounds, but more importantly, doing the right things to keep myself healthy, getting enough water, getting enough protein, not exceeding in simple carbohydrates and fats and processed foods, limiting alcohol, which has been a crutch and admittedly a transfer of addiction for me from food that I did not anticipate. So my commitment is, and you are all an audience too, and so is Mike, over the next 5 weeks, and I have taken some photos, but I'll share those at the end. My youngest son took those photos. They're fun. With a shirt that says basically, I can do it, watch me. So we're going to see what can happen in the course of 5 weeks, but my commitment is zero alcohol, getting at least 64 ounces of water, and keeping my eating into time frames as designated by time restricted meals and intermittent fasting. One of my favorite research physicians is Dr. Jason Fung. And so I'll be sharing some of that. But, I'm not saying everyone needs to do that, but I'll be sharing my journey. And so every week on Sunday, we'll be dropping a video or live. And I'll tell you over the course of 5 weeks my weigh-in for that day. And at the end of 5 weeks, you'll see the follow-up photos and the original photos, as well as the original measurements of arm, breast with sports bra, waist, hips with the biggest part of my belly, the biggest part of my thigh, and I'll never have a thigh gap. I accept that. And the largest part of my calf. And we'll get that those measurements on Mike later because he's a wonderful husband and willing to do all of the same measurements. So my commitment is enough water, no alcohol, time restricted meals, and an intermittent fasting protocol that works and is safe for me to get enough of what I need, but not too much of what I don't. And I will walk 5 miles every single day beginning tomorrow. And that might be broken up in a walk that we take together in the morning in our neighborhood. Some of that might be Walk Away the Pounds with Leslie Sansone on YouTube. But I will be covering 5 miles every day for the next 5 weeks. And I'm excited about this. This is sometimes we need a brand new shiny goal, and this is mine. So welcome. This is me being humble and real, and my very supportive husband with me.
So our goal with this, I'll share some of my story now. Like Kelly said, I had the sleeve done in 2016. After watching her for a while, she did very well with it, but I didn't think that was something I was strong enough to do because it is quite a commitment. There is a lot of change. It's certainly not any kind of easy way out or anything like that. And it's a tool that you use, just like any other diet plan or lifestyle change or anything else. It is a tool. And that's why Kelly, she was very honest about her backslide, I guess we could call it a little bit. I myself am up. I started my weight loss journey at 366 pounds and got down to about 210-ish. I think was I 20 single digits? Was I like 208?
You were under 210 as long as I was under 165. So
Okay.
like a day of a dance, but that did not sustain.
No, and that wasn't exactly where I
You were looking bony.
yeah, I was looking, and I felt a little gone, especially looking back at some of those pictures. And I don't want to use that as a cop out, but that was probably a little bit farther than I wanted.
You're 5'11".
Yeah.
And having carried that much weight, that's the other thing to convey. Setting realistic long-term goals. We're not all going to fit into the normal ranges of weight and the BMI. So identifying where you're happy, healthy, and fierce. And so the scales would tell me, or the ranges would tell me at 5'2" that I should be 101 to 136. And I can tell you that if I was feeling pretty good in a size 8 without muffin capping at 165, that I'm not going to look very good at 136.
Right.
And so I think closer to 150 with enough muscle mass is healthy for me. And you were starting to look very bony at 210.
So my goal is 210 to 215.
Right.
And I weighed in this morning at 233. So I'm up. I'm willing to call it 20 pounds. My goal is to lose about 20 pounds. But more importantly, while this channel and especially the next 5 weeks are accountability for us, we want to try to act as role models. Seems like so
much pressure. I'm so humble.
Well, it sounds, I don't know that that's quite the right word, but if you look in the corner, just below where my face is here, you see the name of our show here is called Fight to Flight, because we know that the same things that particularly we've been dealing with the last 6 months that have led to weight gain and too much of a good time, pretty much everything, whether it's food, whether it's video games, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sleep. excuse me, we know that many people are dealing with that day to day, before, during, and after this pandemic. We know it's been an issue. We know that a lot of folks deal with this stuff every day. And we also know that makes it really hard to achieve anything. Um, there's a inspirational speaker out there by the name of Brene Brown who heard her. I was at a presentation and somebody quoted her as saying, "You can't rise when you're always on the run." Kelly and I, with
Mm.
our dealings with our various chronic conditions communities, myself with folks with chronic breathing problems, Kelly with obesity and metabolic issues, we know that people are always fighting, and we know that we're very wired with the whole fight or flight response as people. And we know, similarly to what Brene Brown was saying, you can't fly if you're always fighting. And so what we want to do, what we do in our daily lives, what we do in our advocacy work, is we try to give people the tools that they need to overcome the fight and take flight. And so that's what we want to be, if not role models, then examples. We want to share that even as
Inspire hope,
clinicians, even,
even after falling.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Even as the
absolutely.
people who are supposed to know what we're doing, we still fall into the same traps. We have the same problems, we have the same issues, and we want to show that we can overcome that too. And if we can overcome that, I promise you, you can overcome that.
Because we're so flawed and
We
real and humble. I
we are both people who have dealt with, and it's funny because while we were planning this show, it was 1 week ago that I had my surgical anniversary, my surgery.
hmm
And just before that, I was posting about how, my whole life I was always the fat kid. I had the husky pants from J.C. Penney's. I was always big. I was big boned. I was, I
me
was
too.
the lineman and playing football and stuff like that. I've struggled with that my whole life. And I finally was able to overcome that for a while, and then I fell into some of the same habits, but now it's on me to re-overcome that and to share what I have learned through the inspiration of the COPD community in
Hmm.
particular, um, and share what we've learned from our life experience, from our clinical experience, and from a lot of other things with all of you. I have run a Facebook group and a YouTube channel for the past few years called COPD Navigator. So I'm also kind of humbled by the fact that it took so long to get this show off the ground today because I thought it was going to be a fairly quick thing, and then I ran into about 8 different tech issues at the same time, and I'm hopeful that I didn't cripple the whole broadcast account. But we want to share this experience that everybody's human. Everybody fumbles, everybody falls, but like they say in the Batman movie, we fall so that we learn to pick ourselves back up again. So we want to share all of these things with all of you and hopefully help you on your journey. Because, again, if we can do this stuff, you can do this stuff.
Oh, well, and I said to you, Mike loves pop culture references. And so, those of you that know and love him from his other endeavors, COPD Navigator and COPD Navigator discussion group now on
Hmm.
Facebook, I can appreciate these things as well. We're both born in 1977, woo, and children of the 80s. And so we know that knowing is half the battle. And so we both know a lot. And I know what to do. I have, if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, which maybe brought you here, maybe you followed me up until today on 21 Days of Change. Maybe you know me from my clinic, and at the very least, I love and adore you, and that's authentic and real. And I only hope that I'm giving you tools that help you. But I know a lot. I've always known a lot. I knew things as a nurse and as a nurse practitioner. And before I had my surgery, I felt so defeated. And what I understand is that when I made the brave decision to have my surgery, thank you, Victoria Sepulveda. I did not know about the sleeve gastrectomy at the time. I had good friends, Rebecca Blades, who went on later in her career for an advanced degree in nursing, who was also the bariatric surgery program leader, who never pressured me. God bless you. But I learned that despite knowing so many things and having great nutrition knowledge and great support and physical activity resources around me and a history of playing tennis and other sports and loving activity and having lost weight on my own beginning at age 11 through 13, I as an 11-year-old, 5'2", sixth grade, I was in the high 150s, and I made it down to the 120s by my freshman year in high school. And I did that by eating well. I was reading my grandmother's Cooking Light magazines. I was doing the vinyl version of Jane Fonda's Complete Workout. I was riding my bike. I was walking. I was in the pool. I was doing a lot of good things, and I learned a lot. And I had a lot more time and a lot fewer stressors and challenges at the time. But it was difficult for me to maintain that once I started driving and life happened. And then my freshman year, undergrad, pre-med, and then nursing and et cetera. And so knowing is half the battle, but it's not all the battle. So I know a lot. And right now, and I really pressured Mike to get this live because I need it. So selfishly, I'll tell you, I need this because I'm struggling. And I'll tell my patients, I'm never going to lie. I'm probably struggling more than most of them. And I also have struggled with addiction. I quit smoking in 2003. There was food addiction. There was sleep addiction. I have spent an enormous amount of money on some online parties lately. I mean, Mike jokes that when we used to go to the casino that I was like Danny Oceans. I mean, when you have an addictive personality, you have an addictive personality, and knowing isn't everything. So how do you take what you know and move it into action? And how do you believe in yourself and create change? And how do you sustain that? I had great support. I don't think that I would have had surgery had it not been for Rebecca or Mike or these amazing children that gave me a new lease on life, or my cousin Jessica and her children, Chase, and my dear sweet cousin Paige, who shares my middle name. My cousin Rachel Becker, and losing my dad at 43 of a heart attack. I mean, that was terrifying. On the day I passed my NP boards as a family nurse practitioner, my grandmother, who was dying in her home with hospice, God bless hospice, she said, "Are you with that, Mike?" And, so I'm 35, finally with the right person, and his children. And she was dying of COPD. And lo and behold, my husband now helps advocate for those with COPD across the country. And the people living with COPD and their carers, their loving partners are a very near and dear community to us. So we want to honor where we've been,
Yes.
where we are going, who has inspired us, which are many people: Edna, John, Karen, Jean,
Jim and Mary.
Near and dear to our hearts. My grandmother, a great deal of our families together. But just because I know what to do doesn't mean that I've been doing it, even in these weeks. So I need a brand new shiny goal. Also, our dear friend Angie Sultan, who had her gastric bypass before we had our sleeves, she really worked hard, and she has been a beacon of light and inspiration for us. She has achieved her lifelong goals by going back to things and doing the hard work and reading, doing work on ourselves, finding loving support with her amazing partners. And, we are inspired every day by amazing people and we want to stay positive and demonstrate how this can be done no matter how many times you fall or how far you fall. And so from today, if I say my goal is, I hope I'm down at least 5 pounds by next week. I know, and I'll tell you from my evidence, that a healthy rate of loss is 1/2 pound to 2 pounds per week, and that's true. And I know that I'm not taking my diuretics in a couple of days, and so a lot of what I'll lose will be water weight, so it's all relative. But I will get my water. I will take care of myself. I have support around me to do that. I will focus on my sleep and stress management. I will get the right kind of nutrition and prioritize my protein. I will walk these 5 miles every day, and I will eliminate alcohol for the entire month of June. So, as we talk about addiction and those challenges, get ready to see me crying or struggling and sharing with you in a very vulnerable way. But that's my commitment in the month of June.
I think you bring up some good points there as far as, we've arguably we've focused a lot on losing weight and things like that. We've both talked about how we're up weight and things like that. But part of the reason we wanted to start this channel was because we know that, again, a lot of the issues that lead to weight gain or, alcohol or online shopping or gambling or, whatever, smoking,
Yeah.
thank you. They have common denominators. And so what we also want to do is hear from you about what do you need? We know, my folks with COPD hear this all the time. I know from the clinical side of things, we do a terrible job with a lot of stuff. With respiratory things, we'll tell people, well, use this inhaler and it'll be fine. And then we won't spend any time teaching them how to use the inhaler. Or we'll say, well, we want you to be active, so we're going to put you on oxygen so that you can be active. And then we won't give you enough oxygen to go do the stuff. Then you have to ration it. And we as clinicians, we as policymakers, a lot of us don't look to solve the whole problem. So, and I also know that we don't do a very good job at destigmatizing a lot of these situations. I
was frightened today even. I was frightened to share today how far I've fallen.
Yeah.
And I know better, and I never want my patients to fear that.
Right. But I mean, it's habit. I mean, both of us have been, as I said, we've struggled with weight our whole lives. So we've heard well, why don't you just push away from the table? Why don't you just get out and walk more? Why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? As a respiratory therapist, I have heard my peers, and I've probably said a time or two myself, why don't they just quit smoking? Why don't they just take their inhaler? Why do you end up in the ER every other day? Why don't you just do what you're supposed to do? And in my journey to be a better clinician, inspired by my folks with COPD and trying to adapt what I've learned on this side of the stethoscope as an obesity patient, it's never just quit smoking. It's why do you smoke? I mean, I work at a clinic that has a lot of folks with economic challenges, with social challenges. I've heard stories that
that's not their fault.
No,
and we'll never know those challenges.
Stories about things, fears, and
discrimination.
Yeah, I mean, just that are presented to me so matter-of-factly, that are so outside my experience. It's been truly eye-opening. I mean, I've heard stories about children going to prison, and then the parents don't hear from them for weeks, and then they hear rumors that there's been a fight, and they don't know if their child is safe or not. And then they're in my office feeling bad because they didn't cut back on their smoking. And I'm sitting there with my jaw open, like, if I were you, I'd probably be smoking 5 packs a day. I mean, that's just, so I know I try to be a better clinician for that reason. I try to have a better understanding of where people are coming from. And I want to be a better advocate in that regard too. But as I always say, I can't fix the problem unless I know what the problem is. So I'm very much, for my part, I'm very much hoping to hear from folks about what kind of resources can we deliver in our roles. A respiratory therapist, public health, an obesity specialist, family nurse practitioner. We have knowledge, we know the path. But as you said, I'm personally more of a fan. Knowing is half the battle, and I like what you did with that. It's only half the battle. But I'm also a fan of the Matrix movies, where Neo, at one point, Morpheus tells Neo, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And so what I want to do is help people walk the path. Well, and that's the other thing.
With context for challenges we may never know.
Right.
And
Everybody knows.
appreciation for.
Everybody knows the path. Everybody knows that you should stop smoking. Everybody knows that you should eat healthy. Everybody knows you should have a certain amount of activity. But there's a difference between knowing that, and so it doesn't do. My point is, it doesn't do any good for me to keep hammering that, or any clinician.
We need to overcome.
We need to figure
or
out
help
barriers.
overcome the barriers and be the change that helps people overcome those.
Yes.
Even if we've not known them, doesn't mean they don't exist. And I think that is acutely evident lately.
Very much so. This is a wildly uncertain time in many aspects. And I know it's always sensitive topics. There's a lot of controversy right now, whether it's pandemics or police. I mean, there's so much strife out there. There's so much conflict and uncertainty. It's really difficult to have a plan to have healthier choices right now, because it's when you are stressed, when you're fighting, when you're on the run, it's really hard to rise above all that stuff. It truly is.
But there's always hope.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I mean, there are things we'll never know, but what I want to say is, and I hope this is conveyed in my live clinic and certainly through these endeavors, every single person matters. Everyone deserves support and unconditional love and resources and help with strategies to overcome. And it may be a pain in the butt and not fair that sometimes we have to work harder to overcome some of those things, but we're willing to do that. We're willing to do that because every single person matters. And that's another reason this is so important to us.
Yes.
Because this is completely outside of any formal arrangement here.
And we also know that all too often people are made to feel like they don't matter. I mean,
it's their fault that they're where they are.
Right. There are so many cliches about what matters and what doesn't. The problem is we have too many people who are made to feel that they don't matter, or they matter less, or that, again, why don't you just, or what should you do? It's all of those things coming, how should you feel? How, what should you be doing to express your displeasure? We can't be like that. I mean,
we're not here to tell you how to feel. No.
I want, just like I tell my folks with COPD, I don't have COPD. I don't know what it's like. I can intellectually say, I understand, you're short of breath. It must be frustrating, all that stuff, but I don't know how you feel. And I can't, because I don't have that experience. And I know there's a lot of people out there that I can understand it, but I can't know it. And that's okay. I don't necessarily want to know it. I just want to help.
That doesn't make it any less real,
right,
or important.
That's a better way to put it.
And for those circumstances, like with social stratification, or us not fully understanding certain discrimination, it's real. We may never know what people have seen or faced, but it matters.
And it also doesn't stop us from trying to help fix it. I mean,
that doesn't mean it doesn't matter, and it isn't very real, and we recognize that. And so everyone's very real input raw and real input. I know it makes you vulnerable, which is unfair because some of us are made more vulnerable than we should ever have to be. But we want this to be a safe place, and we'll do everything we can to help overcome some of that and provide resources and support and love because every single person deserves that. And
Which
that's
is
all we want to see.
which is why we're straight up with you guys too. I mean,
Lord.
we know that you can't have trust without open communication. I still have to this day my PJ Fleck row the boat oar on my wall because we cannot row together and get from point A to point B unless we trust each other. And you aren't going to trust me if you think I'm feeding you a line. So,
Yep.
I will be straightforward. I will confess. I will put it all out there. Kelly has already done that. I mean, because we want this to be open. We want this to be a different kind of clinical experience. This is obviously not medical advice or anything like that, but we want people to know that there are clinicians out there who will not judge, who will not impose, and who will be honest, and
The,
who are dealing with similar aspects in certain ways.
this pandemic, this tragedy, and other tragedies around us right now, this is not a business venture. We don't have personal gain we're seeking. We oftentimes feel our hands are tied or we feel helpless, especially in the social isolation. What is our goal? What is our agenda? I often will look at a person's real agenda. We just want to be real and have a place for ourselves to grow and be accountable, but we want to learn more. We're naive to some things.
Mm-hmm.
We have appreciated the trust that people have put in us already.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in order to, at the end of the day, why are we here? Why are we talking to you now on a Sunday? We want to sleep at night knowing that we listened and we're the generation that cares. And we will do what we can to learn, seek first to understand, learn more, provide more, be more, because people deserve that. And we want to be a good example for our children. They're very bright, they're very caring, and we want to show them how we can unite and provide that. And if we do nothing else in life, that, we're in our humble home here, and that's what it's about.
Should you choose to support the endeavors, everything, we have a couple different routes where people can support efforts. The biggest thing we ask is that you like, share, and subscribe, as they always say on YouTube, all the creators say. We also do have a Patreon set up that everything goes right back into advocacy and creating more materials, again, that can help everybody. Our goal, as Kelly said, we're not looking to be millionaires.
We're in a small
we're quite
house, less
comfortable
than
with
1,200 square feet in Little Millwood.
with our Star Trek shower curtain here.
Yeah.
We're not fancy. We don't want to be fancy.
We're not even planning to move.
It's too much effort to be fancy, to be honest with you. So it's always an awkward conversation. We love any support that any community will give us, whether, again, it's as simple as a like, a share, a subscribe, as sending somebody our way so that we can amplify the message. We all know
that
that
everyone matters, and
Yes.
there's unconditional support that's free and accessible.
Yes.
That's what matters the most,
Yeah.
the very most.
And we know that a lot of people simply don't have a voice, whether it's, again, with the COPD folks, it's hard when you're out of breath going to the mailbox. It's really hard to hike up Capitol Hill.
Same with obesity,
Yeah.
and joint issues due to carrying
I
extra
know. I
weight.
mean, we were just talking to the kids about how I would take them to school and then come home and take a nap just because I was just that tired all the time.
I was sweaty and tired all the time.
So
Depressed,
So our goal is to give people the resources they need to be their own best advocate with their clinical team. We also want to help people have a louder voice and be able to speak together so that we can make more change in healthcare and policy and everything else, so that more people are able to be free of the stigma as much as possible. Um, and that's where we're at, I guess. So,
It's an honor. It's an honor to have anyone tune in and trust us.
speaking of, I want to see
Yeah.
the screen shut off.
Oh,
Would you hand me that mouse, please?
yes. I will say that the best nest, the name of our YouTube channel and our page, comes from my favorite book growing up by P.D. Eastman, named The Best Nest, all about mama bird wondering if there's, something better out there, and she goes away to search and learns that all she really wants and needs is her original nest. And so I joked as Mike and the kids moved in with me and my dog Charlie in 2012 that I had the nest, and I just wanted, the right family to join me. So I would make I'm an only child, and I would make my parents read that book to me cover to cover. And if they skipped a single word, they had to start over. You can ask my mother about that. So that's where the best nest comes from. So credit to P.D. Eastman for that. I know there are a couple of versions of the book out there. And I am wearing now earrings that have hawks on them after my father died at age 43 of a heart attack that we didn't see coming. And I was very close with my father. It was a wonderful man. Since his passing, whenever I see a hawk, I feel supported by him. And so part of our message from Fight to Flight 2 is that messenger and inspiring hope and support and unconditional love. So there are reasons we have birds and this name for our safe place.
All right. So, if you are watching this after the fact, please make sure that please feel free to drop us a comment, send us a message. We're pretty easy to find on a variety of social media things. Mike Hess and Kelly Becker. One thing I forgot to do is set up like a email account for us. So we'll have to get on that and have that ready for the next show, so that people can send us other messages and things like that. Again, I have if you go find COPD Navigator, it's taken me 3 years, but it's there's a pretty straightforward thing for that, and I thought it would be pretty easy to switch that over to do this show with a couple of other accounts, but then everything kind of fell apart. So hopefully you're catching us after the fact. Again, drop us a comment, like, share, and subscribe, hit the bell, all of the YouTube cliches for sure. And let us know how we can help. That's what it's all about at the end of the day, is we want to help. So
Yeah, let's fly.
let's fly. And speaking of flying, how do you want to do the measurements here? We want to.
I'll do yours later, and then we'll share the next time.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant sharing them on the show here. So
Yeah, I didn't bring the measurement down, and I
okay.
did mine before I had my dinner. I have some. If you'll hand me my phone, I'll tell you. So I don't want these widely exposed, but those of you that have tuned in, I'll give you a sneak peek. I have this shirt that I got at one of the gyms we go to.
I will.
Where we play tennis. That's the West Hills Athletic Club, and we're also members of our Ascension Borges gym. But this is a shirt we got there. I can and I will watch me. So these are some amusing before pictures I took with measurements today.
I'll get them up closer to the camera here. Oh, there we go. Let's see, how do you set brightness? I have learned that I have to be a little bit careful.
This is humbling, y'all, but it's cool.
But
Cool.
This is the honesty. This is
So after 5 weeks, I'll recheck.
live television, ladies and gentlemen.
After 5 weeks, I will check in again, and you can see them up close then. Yeah, look at that back. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing.
Baby got back.
Oh, baby. Okay.
So, and I'm humbled. I was working on a presentation earlier, and I put a sport coat on for the first time in 2 or 3 months, and that didn't button.
The jeans I wore when I was called on stage at the House Blues, the gospel brunch, which was I love you, baby, but probably my best memory in life ever. Next to marrying you, the 3 times that I did. But I don't think those jeans, I could not button those jeans right now. Yeah, from the gospel brunch.
So, and I'll tell you, I'll be
Oh,
honest.
I got this there too from, I'm a big
And
blues fan.
I can't even. I can't, what I can blame is lack of activity. What I have seen on my part,
So
because
crucial now.
I was struggling with bumping back up again, even before the pandemic, and I shared
The
with
tennis elbow. And,
I shared with you. I even had a couple of patients say, "Boy, are you feeling okay? Because you look bigger. You look like you're putting
yeah,
on some weight."
yeah.
Because one of the things that we've really enjoyed doing now that we weren't 300 pounds anymore was to play tennis, particularly in the morning. I was never any kind of morning person, but I adapted to that, became a morning person. We would get up and we would play tennis,
At
and
least
then
3 days a week for
yeah,
at least an hour.
and then
Yeah.
I developed a wicked tennis elbow, and it just wouldn't go away, and it was just too physically painful, and I didn't follow my own advice. I didn't find other activities to do when the one activity was
Challenging.
inaccessible or what have you.
Right.
And that was probably where the first 10 to 15 pounds came from, was we were just
Man.
not active.
And then that's just this anxiety and depression cycle because those things help you really regulate sleep, which is so important, and anxiety and depression. And I talk about it all the time. When you're first losing weight, the most important thing is locking in the appropriate ratios of nutrition. Getting enough of what you need and not too much of what you don't. You can't outrun your diet. So that's crucial. And then once you lock that in and after you lost significant weight, physical activity is crucial, not only for disease prevention and protecting your joints and injury and maintaining muscle mass, but, because you're moving less mass around, being more active after weight loss is essential to weight maintenance. And so we probably got away with an imperfect nutrition plan to some degree. I mean, it was under better control before the pandemic, but we got away with a lot because at that time we were playing 1 to 2 hours of tennis, sometimes in the evenings.
Yes.
Or playing sometimes twice a day. And so that level of activity really saved us. And when that tanked, we tanked. And then so did mood and motivation and the other things. And as you all know, when one thing falls apart, a lot of things. But conversely, the good thing is one little win can spike the next little win. And so so we'll challenge you today. If I say in 1 week, I will tell you I had no alcohol, I had all my water, and I walked 5 miles every day, even if it took me several sessions. Those are the 3 things I'm committing to in 1 week, whether it's live or recorded when we drop the video on Sunday. And we encourage you to set a goal, even one behavior thing or one measurable thing to share with us in 1 week, and drop it in the comments if you think of it or you want us to ask you about it.
Yeah, so that we can celebrate with you.
Yeah, and so Mike, I'll put you on the spot. We won't do your measurements, but what's one thing you'll say in 1 week you will have accomplished? What is either a measurable objective goal or behavior change you want to make in this first week?
The first week, I want to get back to moving. I want to join you in
so many things.
I want to join you in your 5 miles a day.
Okay.
Because that has been, even near the surgery time, I noticed I would lose more in the honeymoon phase. You can kind of lose almost no matter what you do. But I would lose more when I was more active. When I was keeping closer track of my steps.
And you respond to gamification. You really respond to numbers and that challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 5 miles, that's somewhere around 10,000 steps, I think.
Yeah,
So,
it's about 2,000 steps per mile.
okay, so I'm going to start wearing my monitor again.
So 10,000 steps a day.
Okay, 10,000 steps a day.
And I'll say 5 miles.
And I will record that, and I'll be able to demonstrate.
We
that
can
with-
show our graphs. Like we can even share them
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah.
Legit.
So.
Yeah.
let us know what your goal is so that we can, and then join us again next Sunday so that we can celebrate with you. We'll probably, I would suggest we do the first couple of these live as much as we can.
Yeah.
Um,
We might not have time as we're walking 5 miles a
that's
day and
right.
doing other
That's right.
things. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to see everybody again next week and share some success stories.
I would say if I've lost at least 5 pounds or if I can go under the 190, I can't even believe I'm saying that. I remember what a big deal it was to get under 200 in early 2016. But if I am at least under 190 in the morning, I will weigh in front of all of you and you can see the scale.
All right. All right. Anything else we want to throw out there for our first episode? Maybe a touch abbreviated because of our infamous tech issues, but I think we're off to a good start.
The adult doesn't really want more than 45 minutes. We'll just do them a solid, call it good.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I'm also aiming to get this up. You may be listening to us on one of your favorite podcast sources. So make sure that you spread the word there too. I will hopefully the audio is as soothing as as the video.
We love you.
We love you all. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We will see you next week. My name is Mike Huss. This is my lovely wife, Kelly Becker.
Let's fly.
Let's fly.